Hello everybody and welcome to Wesley's Plant World with me, Wesley Peterson, and today we are out in the area of my garden here at Crystal Cottage called Cozy Cove. And this part of my garden I've decided to turn into a fern paradise because yes, I love ferns and there are so many different wild ferns around and about where I live here in southern Sweden. And apart from those, there are also many varieties, cultivars that you can buy in all of the plant shops around and about. And I want to plant more of those in my garden as well. So recently, me and Joachim went out into the Crystal Woods area of my garden and found all of these lovely tall rocks here because I wanted to create a new border where I can put all of my bought ferns in to have a lovely display of lots of different varieties. So the first thing of course we did was build the border with the rocks, and we've already filled the plant bed with 20 sacks of soil, a good gardening mix, and now I have to wait until the autumn time when all the autumn leaves start falling and I can collect those and put a huge thick layer of those in this border. After that, I am going to get another 20, 30, maybe 40 sacks of soil to put on top and mix the whole lot together. That way I'll get a very good, rich soil for my ferns that will be filled with a lot of organic material. And also later on, I will get twigs and stems and all sorts and break those up and place those in around my ferns so that we get this woodland kind of mulchy soil. So I'm going to build it up so that the soil mass is going to be quite high, higher than the level of the ground in front, probably to the height and a bit higher than the rocks that are in front, because then I'll have a soil that can stay moist but well draining. That's what most ferns like as well. So by adding lots of the fallen leaves and so forth, it will be mimicking what it's like in a woodlandy kind of area, which is where most of the kind of ferns that I'm going to be planted will grow naturally. I will also experiment with some ferns that maybe grow in a little bit different environment where they grow on or among rocks and things like that, but they still need some organic material to keep some moisture around their roots. So some of those will be placed at the front, and I might even put some rocks in the border and elevate it like that and put those ferns in amongst those, but that will all come as I see how this border looks and how it matures out and how much space there is and so forth. So this is what it looks like now, and I decided to make this border here because this was an expanse of ground where nothing was happening. The grass was finding a hard time growing at the back here because it's quite shaded. So I decided, okay, the best thing to do would be to use it as a border for all these ferns. There's plenty of space. And you know ferns can get quite wide, so they're going to need space. But I do want my ferns to be able to knit together and become a lovely tight mass with all different types of fronds. It's going to be absolutely fantastic and amazing, so I can't wait to get on with that. So in the meantime, I've been out and I've bought myself a few varieties of fern that I want to put in this border next year once I've amended the soil more and let it settle in and let all the biodiversity work on breaking down the leaves and the twigs and all of the other organic material that I'll place in this border for these plants. So what I want to do in this video is make more plants out of the pots that I've bought so that I can get a bigger area to plant smaller plants that can mesh together. So here in my hands are all of the new ferns that I've bought. What I'm going to do is I'll take each one of these, I'll show you what plant it is, I will split it up and see how many plants I can get out of it, and then we'll go on to the next one and the next one. So we get to see each one at a time. So I have 7 small pots here, and I want to get a lot more than that to fill out my border. So it's going to be really exciting to see what I get out of all of this. But before that, I just want to take you in for a closer look of my Cozy Cove area to show you all of the ferns that I already have planted here and some that are going to come out absolutely fabulously as well next year. So let's have a look at those quickly first. So this is the entrance to Cozy Cove, and down at the bottom here, I've actually planted in some Dioptris ferns that I cut back, and I will wait for them to pop up again next year, which they will do with no problem, I'm sure. So they're all along here. These can get between 80 to a metre or so tall. So this would be a nice bushwork along the edge of ferns, and that's on both sides. This is the new border that Joachim and I created. So down here at the bottom of the border, I have Filix femina, a plant that grows everywhere naturally in Sweden, and in some situations people actually think they're weeds, but I would never call a fern a weed. But they can, in some situations, get out of control for people. So I have those in here, and behind that I have planted in a lot of Hydrangea arborescens Annabelle that I split when I did my video where I dug up a lot of roots from my botanical garden to put in different areas of my garden, and this is a perfect corner for them to grow out and bush out and give lovely white flowers behind the ferns that will be growing here. But these Filix femina I am going to be digging up so that I can put my bought varieties in the whole of this border. So I have a border at the back here in Cozy Cove that needs to be sorted, and here I will plant out those Filix femina so that we have a lovely fern alley going along here at some point on the right and left side, and I have a lot of Filix femina growing up on this edge here. They're absolutely beautiful. So I'm really enjoying them here. They're mounding out and they look just fabulous. Such a wild Jurassic feel when you see all of them growing out like this. And then I have my pots here with different varieties. Look at the bright lime colour on this lovely fern down here. And the shape of it from the middle. Absolutely fabulous. And then you can see that is a very different contrast to the one down here. And this plant, when I bought it, I split it into 4 separate plants from one pot, and the rest are growing in my crystal driveway in another pot. And these ones have been left here to fill out this pot. And then I have this amazing one at the back here. Look at these lovely, hairy looking petioles on this plant. And as you grow up, it gets very tall, stands up beautifully. There you go, you can see the crown up here, and then we'll see if we can look down in the middle of it. There you go. Beautiful colour, shape, texture. There are so many different types of Dropteris. They are absolutely fantastic. So I will definitely want to collect many of those. So those look beautiful together. So you can clearly see the difference between the 4 different fern species that are in the frame right now. And then on my table, I have lots of pots with beautiful ferns. This one's very cute on the table here and doesn't grow very big. That's why I have these in pots. They're smaller fern and I can enjoy them as specimens in these pots. So I've split all these, spread them out in these pots, so they're going to look better next year as well. But even for now, they're fine. And then here I have a lovely fern. Look at this gorgeous, beautiful fern growing in this pot. Absolutely stunning to look at. I love the black petiole on these fronds here. So they're growing happily in this pot. on my table. Just like that. And then next to them, another species. Look at these. These grow where it's a little bit moist, semi-shady positions, and absolutely look fabulous when you see them growing on boulders and rocks around and about. Fabulous. I do love those. And then we have this variety that just doesn't look like a fern at all, but it unfurls like a fern, and it has spores like any other fern. If we look down here, maybe you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, but there are spores on these plants. So you can see one plant growing out here, one plant growing out here, and I have another one growing here. And on this one you can see some of the spores, maybe black stripes underneath the leaves. But that's another beautiful type of fern, and all of these grow naturally in Sweden. So I have those on the table. So now if I go back, just in this picture here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ferns, of which 7 grow naturally in Sweden. Around and about in the area where I live in southern Sweden. So this is just fantastic, and this is just a few of the many, many species there are growing where I live in Sweden. It's just fantastic, and that's why I want to buy different varieties, cultivars, to fill up this border, to have lots of different interesting ferns. And I'll probably have lots more pots going on here and all sorts. But for now in this video, I need to get back to showing you all of the varieties that I've bought that I'm going to split, ready to continue on this border and plant out next year. So I really hope you enjoyed seeing how everything's looking now, and I can't wait until next year to see the ferns that I've pruned right down, how they're going to bush out and make me a lovely hedge along the front edge of Cozy Cove, and then how the border behind me is going to transform, as well as moving around some of my ferns, as I said I'm going to do. So there's a lot to do in here to be able to fit everything in. But now I need to get on with these beautiful little ferns I have in front of me so that they're ready for when I plant them out next spring in 2024. So right, I've turned the camera around so that I can work on my bench here. And I have all my new ferns behind me, but as I'm going to be working on one fern at a time, I don't need to move around all of my other ferns. I'll just put my pots that I'm going to be working on, which are some small green pots, absolutely perfect for this. And I'd say that these are probably around 10 centimeters wide and deep, perfect for these small plants. So the first beautiful fern that I am going to be working on today is this one in front of me here. So look at this beautiful fern. And now don't worry about the way they're looking now and browning out and so forth. These are in small pots and they were quite dry when I bought them at the garden centre that I bought them at. So not the best condition for them. So they've been drying out and so forth, but I've been really keeping them hydrated since I bought them, and the rest of the leaves have managed to cope with that. But I'm going to be splitting them anyway, and I'm going to be doing a lot with them, so I'm not expecting anything to look fantastic until next year. But anyway, we can have a look at what the leaves look like, because this is an absolutely beautiful fern, and you can see what the fronds look like right now. So they're really lovely and enjoyable to look at. And this fern can get to around 70 centimeters tall, so it's going to be a nice big fern with time, with lovely long fronds. So I want to get this out of the pot and see how many plants I can get out of this one little tiny pot here. So basically, out of the pot with it, and its roots have probably grown out through the holes at the bottom, which they have, I can see already. But I can maybe squeeze the pot, because these are soft pots, so that's good. I can squeeze the pot and just pull out the plant from the side, and there we go. That pot's gone. Now in this pot, I can actually see a lot of plants, and that is fabulous because I really do want to be able to spread them out to make me a nice mass straight away. So I'm going to get in and see what I can get out of this. Go in between each rosette and saw. Saw, 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 and then you can break away a lovely little plant just like that. And this little plant has many fronds ready to come out later on, and I'll just show you that quickly. So you see I've got this one plant out of that whole pot, and if we look inside, so if you look there, you can see there are fronds that are waiting to emerge. So this is a lovely little plant that's going to do fantastic for me later on. And basically I'm going to plant each one up as I go along, because then it's done. And I have my soil in front of me here. I'm using a gardening mix that has a little bit of sand and organic material and all sorts in it. Just a little bit at the bottom, because this was obviously, I don't need much soil at the bottom because this already has roots that go right down to the bottom of a pot that's the same size. Fill in the sides like so. And away we go. That is my first plant done, just like that. So there you go. This plant will carry on now in its pot, and I have a crate on the side, so every time I make a plant, I can just put it in the crate. So I'm going to get on with the rest of this in fast forward because you know it takes a bit of time. So already from my first fern here, this beautiful Japanese ostrich fern, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pots. I could have made more, but 5 is actually enough. So that is perfect. And these 5 oriental ostrich ferns are going to grow out for me beautifully now as a lovely colony in my new border. So I can't wait for that. Now it's time for the next fern. So the next lovely fern I have to show you here might not be looking that lovely right now, but it's going to next year anyway. So this, if we bring it closer, this is the beautiful sensitive fern. And well, I don't know if I have any throngs that are that nice to show you. Yes, I have one here, it's broken, but I can take it off and show you. There you go. That's what the frond looks like on this sensitive fern. These ones, as you can see here, are browning and drying out because they were drying out too much in this little pot as a colony that's just taken over the pot. It's so stiff in this pot, it needs to be split anyway. And that's why these are drying out. But these are going to be lovely next year. There's a few more green leaves there, so you can see what it's going to look like. So now I just need to get this split. And this, oh, another thing I want to show you about this. This is really interesting. Look how it grows out. If you look on the edge of this pot here, you can see it's growing out these new kind of rhizomes where this plant will grow and spread out. And they are, as you see here, all around the edge of this pot. So that's quite interesting to see. Now, to get this out of this pot, squeeze, 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 pull out the roots and get rid of this plastic, little plastic pot. Oh, and let's see what we get. The good thing about being in the garden is when you're doing stuff like this, you can just rip off all of these dying fronds, for example, and just throw them directly on the ground and let the biodiversity do their thing. Because everything gets broken down and recycled, right? So you get a nicer looking plant just for the rest of the season, just so I can see what the plant is and enjoy that little bit. And doing this, splitting these plants that were desperate to be split anyway, they will probably manage to grow out a few more fronds this season, and then they'll look prettier before the next season even comes around. But this is going to ensure me bigger, more healthy, happier plants to plant out next year, because they would have already grown out more roots because they have more space, and there'll be more fronds that come up from the rhizomes. So absolutely perfect. And they can stay moister longer. And that is the most important thing when it comes to your ferns. So out of that pot of this sensitive fern, I managed to get me 3 little pots. So that's 2 extra pots. Now I can put these in my container, put them at the back here. 1, 2, 3. Now for fern number 3. So the next fern I have on my list is the heart's tongue fern, and this fern doesn't look like the other ferns at all, and that's what makes it special and beautiful. It has just 1 blade, and well, I just think this is an absolutely wonderful fern, and there is a variety of this fern that does grow wildly in Sweden, which is fantastic. And it has the most amazing spores on the bottom in lines on both sides of the central nerve. So let's have a look at this closer up. Look at this beautiful heart's tongue fern and how different it is from the other ferns. It doesn't have long, big fronds with lots and lots of pinna. It's just got 1 beautiful leaf. And then on the back of the frond, you can see all those spores, which is how ferns reproduce, through spores, because they don't have flowers at all. This is a beautiful fern. It will get darker green than this. When I bought this plant, it was in the sun and had turned very yellow. It doesn't like to grow in direct sun, so dappled light, like you can see here, which is perfect for ferns, this will get a darker green. And these type of ferns don't like to be in direct sunlight. They like to be in dappled light, like you can see here. So next year, this will turn a lovely darker green and be really, really beautiful in my border at the front, because it doesn't grow very tall. It gets to around 40 centimeters tall, whereas the last fern that I just split, the oriental ostrich fern, can get to around 50 centimeters or so. So they all grow out different heights, which is perfect to have in a border so that you can get a kind of ebb and flow. So out of this plastic pot, again, squeeze those roots from the bottom of the pot out. This one is difficult for me to see where all of the rosettes are. So I am going to do something drastic, and I'm just going to go right in through the middle and saw. This is drastic because I can ruin some rosettes, but I will still get plants out of it, because whatever's left of a rosette will carry on growing. And even though I said this would be hard, look at that. I got 2 lovely plants already, so I'm thinking to make sure I get myself 4 out of this. 2 more. Lovely. So there we go. I got myself 4 beautiful new plants out of this heart's fern. And now they're ready to be put in my crate to carry on growing out beautifully. And I will show you these all later, but I've got a lot more ferns to work on yet. This is so much fun. So that was only 3 out of my 7 pots that I bought. So the next fern I have to split here is this shaggy wood fern. And I hope I'm going to be able to get a few plants out of this. We'll see. Have a look at this. So this shaggy wood fern might look small right now, but it can get to around 70 centimeters tall. So it's going to be a lovely plant when it grows out. Have a look at this closer up. So this is either called the wood fern or the shaggy wood fern. And look at those beautiful fronds on this. I really, really like that. And I should be able to get a couple of plants out of this too. I love ferns. Squeeze the pot. Out with them. So that's my shaggy wood fern finished. I have 3 examples now. This is just so perfect. My crate is filling up already. And when I show you these closer up later on, you're just going to think that I went out and bought them like this because they look fantastic. So the next wonderful fern I want to show you is this one here. This is the Japanese painted lady fern variety Pictum. And this plant can get to around 40 centimeters tall. And it really doesn't represent the way the plant will look because this one is completely green, but it will have hues of silvery grey and different tones of green as a kind of variegated fern. It will look absolutely beautiful. But this is the way it's looking for now. And you can see its lovely fronds here. There you go. A lovely plant. And there it is from the back side. So I'm expecting to get a few plants out of this as well now. Squeeze that pot. Get the root ball so I don't have to break any of the fronds. Right, here we go. Let's see what we can get out of this. I'm going to go straight down the middle and see what happens. Going down the middle. Got me 2 plants very easily. Can I get any more? I think so. I'm going to dare to get me 4 plants out of this straight away. I've decided where I want to go. I'm going to saw. And I just got me 2 more. Wonderful. Well, that couldn't have gone better. I got myself 4 pots now of this beautiful painted lady fern variety Pictum. And so 3 extra pots because I already had one. What an amazing bonus. So now I just need to get these in my crate as well. There. Oh, this is so exciting. It's just so exciting knowing that I've got myself so many extra beautiful little plants out of these small pots. 2 more to go. So the next little beauty I have to show you here is called the hard fern. And you need to see this close up. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is a little fern that can get to around 40 centimeters tall, but it has these lovely, lovely fronds on it that are dark green and they're fine. And well, look at this closer. Aren't they just gorgeous? They're so cute. I really, really like this fern and I'm really looking forward to this growing out in my border. This lovely fern gets 2 different types of fronds, fertile and infertile fronds. So that will also be interesting later on next year if they produce those. The lovely hard fern, gorgeous. So I would like to get me quite a few out of this one actually, but I don't know how they are together. So I think I'm going to have to do the same trick and just cut through the middle. Be prepared to lose some fronds because again, it will just grow out new fronds anyway. I think this jungle's a little bit difficult to get through, just like this, to find a clear division. So for this season, I am just going to risk losing some fronds and go for a clear cut to get me more plants. So this is a brutal cut that I'm making here, but mind you, they kind of fell apart themselves, and this one became an easy little plant of its own. Let's have a little look. Take the fronds that have been cut off first. Yeah, I can't do more with that, I don't think. Otherwise I'll damage it too much. So that's going in there. So there we go, I managed to actually get 3 plants out of that one pot because it was a bit difficult to split them even more than that, but I'm very pleased with the fact that I have 3 plants now already. So those can also go in my crate here because I only have 1 more plant left to divide. There, that's those. Let me get on with the last one of the day. So the last fern I have to work on today is called the soft shield fern. And this is a compact little pot, so I might be able to get quite a few plants out of this one as well. Let's have a closer look. So here we go, that's the beautiful soft shield fern. Have a closer look at that. It too has really lovely fronds. And this plant can grow to around 60 centimeters tall, so it would be quite big when it grows out. At the back, you can see here, it's quite compact in this little pot, so ready to be taken out and divided to put in my border next year. See how hard this one's going to be to get out. So there we go, that's my final fern, the soft shield fern, and I got 4 pots from this one pot, so I'm really pleased with that, and they all look very full up. In fact, they look near enough the same size as they were when they were all in one pot. For example, if I bring these 2 in to show you, they look the same as before. So now I can get these into one of my pots, and I need to put plants in that don't look like each other. Even though I'm going to put tags on them later, I do still want to have a good separation between ones that look quite the same. Some of them are evergreen, so I'll be able to see anyway, but some aren't. And I don't want them getting mixed up now that I have so many fabulous plants here. So that is my 2 crates filled out now with lots of lovely plants. So what I need to do is water them all through thoroughly to make sure that they're going to be happy in their roots, and then they're going to stay in these crates like this out here with everything else until it gets colder, and then I will put these in my annex so they don't get too much frost and get frozen around their roots for the first winter here until I need to use them in my border next year. So first I'll just count how many pots I have. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 25, 26. 26 pots I have all together now, and that is absolutely fantastic. So 26 pots minus the 7 original means that I got myself 19 extra plants out of my 7-pot buy. And that is absolutely fantastic. So I hope all of these are going to thrive and mound out so I can put them in my border to get a big hive of these growing on in the future. So let me take you in now for a closer look at these plants so you can see just how fantastic they look after having been divided. So here we go. Remember, this little rock wall on the edge is going to be full of Drypteris ferns next year on both sides. And this border here will be full up with all of the plants that I have just split today. So let's pan around and see all of these lovely new ferns that I've managed to create. Now look at this. There we go. A lot of beautiful young ferns ready to carry on growing out for me. And my collection has all of a sudden gotten so much bigger. Look at that. So many more plants out of 7 little pots. Absolutely amazing. And where we are, Cozy Cove. There's my annex on the left and our Crystal Cottage in the distance over there. And then all of my lovely ferns here. And the larger ferns once again. Around here. And the ferns that I have on my table. So this couldn't have gone better. So I really hope you've enjoyed seeing all of my lovely new plants that I've managed to create today, and all of the other species of ferns that I have going on here in my Cozy Cove area of my garden. And this garden's just going to get more and more full of all sorts of different ferns, and it's going to be so exciting because it will be so much easier to see the subtle differences between them. And well, the borders at the back here are going to be sorted out, and down at the front there will be more pots and things going on in here. And it's just going to look better and better every year as the plants grow out, mature and thicken out. So I'm really, really looking forward to that as well. But this has all come on so fabulously for me. Just the plants on my left side here that I planted probably around 3 years ago have just grown out and matured so well. It looks absolutely fabulous. And that is a glimpse into the future when the other borders are just as filled out with these gorgeous, gorgeous ferns. So if you haven't got any ferns, or you have 1 or 2, I suggest you go out and find some more because they are absolutely fantastic. And many of them are evergreen as well, which is a fantastic thing. So I will be looking out during the winter to see which of my plants manage to stay evergreen. And that is going to be so wonderful that I can come out here and see them during the winter months as well. But anyway, this was just the first video of me showing you my new border and how I split some of my new bought plants to create more to put in my border. And then I will show you as I build up my border more and more in another video. And then next spring, when I get to plant out all my lovely plants, and when I go out and find even more varieties and species to plant into my borders. So all I have to say now is thank you very much once again for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be coming up. And I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.